3 within the traditional territory of the Sioux First Nation, and that many of the communities we serve in Sioux Lookout are from Treaty 3, Treaty 5, and Treaty 9, the Anishinaabe Nation. So we'll get going right down to business. For those of you who haven't participated in a statutory public meeting before, I'll advise you it is process heavy. Many words that have to be said, that we can't avoid them. So bear with us, and some you'll hear repeatedly because I think we have three separate topics, but you have to repeat the process. Quick introduction of amendments to the agenda.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
A motion to confirm the agenda for the statutory public meeting February 17th be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Timpson, seconded by Councillor Howie. All in favor? Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Thank you. Applications. Zoning bylaw amendment number Z01 2021, 673 and 675 Drayton Road. The applicants are Mitchell and Anita Wills, 673 Drayton Road, and Rick, Jeffrey, and Mitchell Wills, 675 Drayton Road. Introduction and overview. This public meeting is being held pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended, to consider a zoning bylaw amendment. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application number Z01 2021 is to rezone the subject lands from the residential shoreline RS zone to a rural residential RR zone, and to implement a minimum setback of at least 120 meters on the subject lands for the development from Abram Lake. Confirmation of notice. The Manager of Development Services will confirm how the notice was served to advertise this public meeting.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, notice was served by mail to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property through the local newspaper, and signs were posted on site.
Staff report. The Manager of Development Services will provide a summary of the application.
Zoning bylaw amendment application was submitted by Mitchell and Anita Wills for the lands locally described as 673 Drayton Road, and Rick, Jeffrey, and Mitchell Wills for the lands locally described as 675 Drayton Road to rezone a portion of the two properties, the subject lands, from the residential shoreline zone to the rural residential zone. A zoning bylaw amendment was required as a condition of a provisional consent to create a new lot. The entirety of the new lot is proposed to be zoned to a rural residential lot. The Committee of Adjustment provisionally approved the creation of a new rural residential lot, consent application C01-2021, that occupies a portion of both 673 Drayton Road and 675 Drayton Road, which are both residential shoreline lots. The proposed lot has a lot area of 1 hectare and a lot frontage of 51.5 meters on Drayton Road. Following the creation of the new lot, the subject lands are no longer located along the shoreline, and therefore the RS zone is no longer appropriate for the subject lands. The applicants are proposing to construct a single detached dwelling on the subject lands in accordance with the standards of the RR zone. The following condition was included in the decision for the consent application C01-2021, that the applicants apply and obtain approval of a zoning bylaw amendment for the new lot to be rezoned to the rural residential zone. The report and bylaw include a condition for a minimum setback for 120 meters due to Abram Lake being designated a lake trout lake. Since the writing of the report, we have received written confirmation. Oh, just a second. Sorry, through Mayor Lawrence, my planning consultant maybe should speak to that quickly. Jamie?
Sure, thanks. I think Jody's provided a good overview.
Jamie, sorry, Jamie, can you adjust your volume up? It's hard to hear you.
Okay, 1 second. Is that better there, Your Worship? Okay, if at any time you can't hear me, just let me know. So Mr. Brinkman's provided a good overview of the application. As he was alluding to, one of the conditions of provisional consent that was provided by the Committee of Adjustment was the condition related to a 20-meter setback from the rear lot line, which is the lot line, in this case, furthest away from the road. That 20-meter setback was applied to ensure that all development would be 120 meters from Abram Lake. Abram Lake was identified in the official plan the last time the official plan was updated as a lake trout lake. That was based on the information that MNRF has provided. Following the Committee of Adjustment meeting, MNRF did provide correspondence to the municipality that Abram Lake is not actually a lake trout lake. So for the purposes of that section in the official plan, there's no need to require additional development to be set back 120 meters from the lake. Nonetheless, the condition that was provided by the committee was for a 20-meter setback from the rear lot line. It is a substantially sized lot. Therefore, it's recommended that that piece of the rezoning application be maintained. If it isn't, then we'd have to go back to the Committee of Adjustment to amend that condition. So provided the applicant is okay with the 20-meter setback from the rear lot line, I think we should proceed as is. If the applicant would like to have that requirement removed, it would also necessitate going back to the committee as well to have a change in condition, which is something that could be done. But we'll let the applicant speak to that. That's just something that has come to light in preparation for this meeting. Otherwise, this is a fairly straightforward application. As Mr. Brinkman mentioned, it implements a condition of provisional consent, and it would conform to the. So with that, I don't believe there's any additional information that I'd like to provide on the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Development Services Manager, anything further in your staff report? Sorry, you're on mute.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence. Sorry, I was not sure if I was on mute or not. So just the outside of what I was going to speak to there, the proposed lot would be 1 hectare with 51.5 meters of frontage on Drayton Road. 673 Drayton Road would be, you know, if approved, 1.1 hectares with 50 meters of frontage on Abram Lake and 25 meters of frontage on Drayton Road. 675 Drayton Road would be approximately 1.2 hectares with 60 meters of frontage on Abram Lake and 35 meters of frontage on Drayton Road. And that's the end of the report.
Thank you. Correspondence from government agencies and municipal staff. The Manager of Development Services will read out any correspondence received from government agencies and municipal staff.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we received no correspondence.
The Manager of Development Services will read out any correspondence received from members of the public.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we received no correspondence from members of the public.
Thank you. The applicant's presentation. The applicant or a representative is invited to speak to the application. Is there the representative here? Is that you, Mitch?
Yeah, that's me. Well, I'm okay with the present application as is. I don't need to change any of the conditions that Jamie just brought up. Other than that, I guess I'm here if there's any questions. So I don't think there's a need for a presentation at this time.
All right, thank you, Mitch. Questions from members of council? Councillor Timpson.
No, I just wanted to clarify the reason that the proposed lot is not on the lakefront is because it would not have enough frontage. Is that correct? Or the other lots would not have enough frontage. Did I understand that correctly?
So we'll go through with the Manager of Development Services.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence. So the two existing lots are lakeshore residential. In essence, this creates kind of a back lot. So the frontage will be on Drayton Road as opposed to Abram Lake. So the lot takes up a portion of 673 Drayton Road and a portion of 675 Drayton Road and does not extend to the lake. So therefore without having frontage on the lake, it needs to be, in essence, considered a rural residential lot rather than what they're currently zoned a residential shoreline lot.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, what is the reason it wasn't just extended down to the lake shore?
Just in order to meet, through you, Mayor Lawrence, in order to meet the requirements of our zoning bylaw for lot size and frontage, exactly that, that's the only way you could do it.
Okay, that's what I was wanting to confirm. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howie.
I don't have any specific questions. I mean, I support the application as presented and amended by the Committee of Adjustment. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bath.
No, I have no questions.
Councillor Fenlon.
I have no comment with development.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
No, I'm quite happy with what's going on, so I'm good with it.
Councillor Cassidy.
Nope, nothing here. I'm good with it as well.
Thank you. Questions from members of the public. Members of the public are invited to speak to the application. The public can ask questions of clarification or seek background information, speak in support of the application, or speak in opposition of the application. All questions will be directed through the chair. It is requested that only one question be asked at a time. Please identify yourself before you ask your question so that you can be properly recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Are there any members of the public present who wish to speak to the application? You'll have to wave your hand or speak up if I can't see you. I see no hands waving and I hear nobody speaking up. Anybody? Last call. Thank you. Conclusion and closing a public meeting. Mr. Clerk, how would you like to do that?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the information does need to be read aloud. If you wish, I can do that.
That was my thought. Let's get another
I
voice
thought
in
as
there.
much. I didn't want to assume. So this concludes the public meeting regarding zoning bylaw amendment number Z01-2021. If any member of the public wishes to be notified of the decision of council in respect of the application, you must make a written request to the Manager of Development Services. Notice to appeal of the decision of council to the local planning appeal tribunal must be filed with the Manager of Development Services no later than 20 days from the date the notice of decision is circulated. The notice of appeal shall be sent to the attention of the Manager of Development Services, and it must include the following information: the reasons for the appeal, and the fees as prescribed under the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal Act in the amount of $1,100, payable by certified check to the Minister of Finance, Province of Ontario. Only individuals, corporations, or public bodies may appeal the decision of council to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. An appeal may not be filed by an unincorporated association or group. A notice of appeal may be filed in the name of an individual who is a member of the association or group.
Thank you. And we'll be going with option one as there are no opposing comments raised at the February 17th meeting. Move that council receives the planning report 2021-23 dated February 17, 2021 respecting zoning bylaw amendment application number Z01-2021, and that council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 11-21 being a bylaw to amend the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux comprehensive zoning bylaw number 85-18 as amended. Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Fenlon. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Did I miss the? No, I did not. Thank you. Item 5, applications. Official plan amendment application number OP01-2021, lot 26, concession A, Pelican Falls Road. Applicant K Contracting and Septic, agent Bob Davidson Consulting. Introduction and overview. This public meeting is being held pursuant to section 1715 and section 22 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended, to inform the public and to obtain their input with respect to a proposed amendment to the Municipality of Sioux official plan. The purpose and effect of the official plan amendment application number OP01-2021 is to permit septic drying beds on the subject lands. The proposed use includes 18 septic drying beds and occupies an area of approximately 1.5 hectares. The subject lands are located on Crown land, and the applicant is in the process of applying for a land use permit from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry and an environmental compliance approval from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. The subject lands are located within the Crown land designation of the official plan and are located within the extractive industrial MX zone in the zoning bylaw. The applications to permit the proposed use on a site-specific basis are required, as the proposed use is not permitted within the Crown land designation or the MX zone. The Manager of Development Services will confirm how notice was served to advertise this public meeting.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, notice was mailed to property owners within 120 meters of the subject site. As well, we also sent notice to the Pelican Falls School, was advertised through the local newspaper and was posted on site.
Thank you. The Manager of Development Services will provide a summary of the application.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, an official plan amendment application and zoning bylaw amendment application has been submitted by Bob David Consulting on behalf of 2670474 Ontario Inc., K Contracting and Septic, for the subject lands located off of Pelican Falls Road, legally described as Lot 26 Concession A. The subject lands are Crown lands and are generally located 2.3 kilometers to the north of Highway 664. The purpose and effect of the applications are to permit septic drying beds on the subject lands. The proposed use includes 18 septic drying beds and occupies an area of approximately 1.5 hectares. To note, we received a request from MNRF to increase the boundaries of the site to 1.87 hectares, which was too late to include in the report provided to council. The subject lands are located on Crown land, and the applicant is in the process of applying for a land use permit from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry and the Minister and environmental compliance approval from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks to establish the proposed use. The subject lands are located in the Crown land designation of the official plan and are located within the extractive industrial zone in the zoning bylaw. The applications to permit the proposed use on a site-specific basis are required, as the proposed use is not a permitted use within the Crown land designation or the MX zone. The application seeks to redesignate the lands to the waste management facility and to rezone the subject property from extractive industrial zone to the waste disposal zone to permit a septic field pumping station. The subject lands are currently forested and are bordered by access roads to the north and south. Surrounding land uses include the former CFS Sioux Lookout radar station and Crown lands. The subject lands are accessed by Pelican Falls Road, which is a Crown road that is not maintained by the municipality. An existing borrow pit exists to the north of the subject lands. There are no natural heritage features or natural hazards identified on the subject lands. The application includes details noting that the trees on the subject lands will be harvested to accommodate the septic drying beds. However, the surrounding trees are to be maintained. The proposed use of septic drying beds are not specifically permitted within any designation within the official plan. The intent of the waste management facility designation is to recognize existing waste management uses in the municipality. Therefore, new operations such as the one proposed on the subject lands are to be reviewed on a site-by-site basis. Given that the subject lands are somewhat remote and separated from sensitive land uses and are located on Crown lands, the use appears to be appropriate. The applicant is undertaking an approval process for the proposed use with MNRF and MECP. These approvals are required prior to the operation commencing on the subject lands. The subject lands are currently located within the extractive industrial MX zone. An amendment to the zoning bylaws required to rezone the subject lands to waste disposal to permit the septic drying beds. Under the uses in the zoning bylaw, The proposed use would be considered a solid waste disposal site, which is permitted in the MD zone. The subject lands are located on a portion of Crown lands, and therefore the subject lands do not form a typical lot with frontage and lot area. A site-specific zone is recommended to apply to the boundary of the subject lands only, and for the purposes of this amendment, the minimum lot area and lot frontage do not apply. The area of the subject lands do, however, exceed what the minimum lot area requirement of 1 hectare is. And that's it.
Thank you. The Manager of Development Services will read out any correspondence received from members of the public. Sorry, from government agencies and municipal staff.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we received comments from Lac Seul First Nation. Dear Bob David, after reviewing the application by K Contracting and Septic, Lac Seul First Nation does not have any concerns with proposed sites. Lac Seul First Nation does not have any concerns for the proposed purposes of the first location, the sand and gravel exploration, and the second location required to support a septic field pumping operations. Thank you for allowing us to review and be consulted in this matter, and hope we continue in unity. Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we received comments from the Northwest Health Unit, which states that the size of the system puts it out of our jurisdiction and into the Ministry of the Environment and Energy's domain. We did send notice to the MACP for their comments, and we did not receive any as of today's date. Through you, Mayor Lawrence, Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry provided the following comments. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the proposed official plan amendment. MNRF would appreciate that the area rezoned for this activity be larger than what the application indicates, as there may be a need to manipulate or slightly move the polygon as we get into MNRF's permitting process. So in response to that, we've extended the boundary. It's in the same site, but it's moved up from 1.5 hectares to 1.87 hectares. And that's it.
Thank you. Now, Manager of Development Services will read out any correspondence received from members of the public.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I guess in hindsight, this probably should have been in that. This is from the Pelican Falls School, from Norma Kijik, the Executive Director of the Northern Nishnawbe Education Council. This letter is Northern Nishnawbe Education Council's written submission to oppose the zoning bylaw amendment Z02-2021 K Contracting and Septic, care of Bob David Consulting, Lot 26, Concession A, Pelican Falls Road. Pelican Falls First Nation High School is located at the end of the Pelican Falls Road. Students and staff use the Pelican Falls Road as the only way to access the school. The increased vehicle traffic created by this commercial enterprise will create a significant safety hazard to Pelican Falls First Nation students, staff, and visitors. Pelican Falls is not a municipal road. The municipality of Sioux Lookout does not maintain this road, nor does the municipality contribute to the cost of maintaining Pelican Falls Road. The full cost of maintaining Pelican Falls Road falls on NNEC. NNEC receives no funding from any level of government for the maintenance of Pelican Falls Road. The addition of the heavy vehicle traffic created by this commercial enterprise will create a significant financial hardship on NNEC for the continued maintenance of Pelican Falls Road. The municipality will collect municipal taxes from the commercial enterprise as it presently does from residential taxpayers on Pelican Falls Road, but accepts no responsibility for Pelican Falls Road. Pelican Falls Road is the only way for this commercial enterprise to access their proposed property. How can the municipality give permission to a private company to use a road that the municipality accepts no responsibility for? Pelican Falls First Nations High School students use the land surrounding Pelican Falls surrounding the school as their classroom for their land-based learning activities. This commercial enterprise is certainly not appropriate for our students' learning environment. Would the municipality consider rezoning this for purposes on lands used by provincial school students for similar purposes. Would the municipality consider this rezoning for Cedar Bay? Why is this rezoning being considered for this location? Students not only attend school at Pelican Falls First Nation High School, but they also live on the site at the Pelican Falls Center. Pelican Falls Road is the only way to access the Pelican Falls Center. Having this commercial enterprise so close to where students live is less than optimal, to say the least. The municipality consistently talks about its commitment to reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. Pelican Falls High School and the Pelican Falls Center is school and home to Indigenous students from remote First Nation communities north of Sioux Lookout, and is operated by NNEC, an Indigenous organization. Given NNEC's legitimate concerns regarding this proposed rezoning as stated above, how can the municipality move ahead with this rezoning and still claim to be committed to reconciliation? That's it.
Thank you. Applicant's presentation. The applicant or a representative is invited to speak to the application. Is there a representative present? Bob David, I believe you are the representative.
Yes, I am here, Your Worship. We certainly have just become aware of this concern today, late in the afternoon. And there's a couple of things. One is the landscape and one is the road itself. My understanding of the legal status of the road, it's a road on public land and as such is open to anyone to use on public land. That being said, the vehicle that is being used to transport the waste material is the same kind of vehicle that's engineered to go down people's driveways and travel dirt roads, so that the probability of damage to the road we feel is quite minor. Again, we respect, especially at breakup time, that there'll be load restrictions, and of course those will be respected. In terms of the amount of traffic on the road, I am seeing that Derek is there. Derek, can you comment on the amount of loads that you would expect would be going out to that site on a daily or weekly basis, whatever's more appropriate?
Hello,
Good evening.
can you hear me?
We can.
As far as the loads going in and out, it's very sporadic. Some days there may be a couple loads go out and there may be nothing for a couple of weeks. It all depends on what's happening in the time of year.
Okay, thanks for that, Derek. In terms of the site zoning, I'd actually take the position that the change of zoning is actually, from the perspective of the future use of the site, actually more advantageous to keep it in a natural state. Right now, the zoning is industrial extractive, which means that it's completely permitted right now for an industrial extraction area, such as an aggregate pit, and that be located on the site right now. It's zoned for that activity. Should it become approved for the waste site, generally what happens on these waste sites are, once the septic drying beds are full, then the land is put back to a natural state, since when the waste that's pumped out of the septic tanks are put in the cells and they dry down, they become more or less fertilizer. And then as such, it's one reason why M&R generally doesn't sell these sites, because they can be returned back to the natural environment when they're no longer required or when they become full up for the septic business.
That's it, Bob, thank you. Questions from members of council? Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I have a question for Bob David. What is it about this particular location that is advantageous to this endeavor, Bob? What is something particular about it that is right? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Joyce. It's central to Derek's operations in and around the municipality. So he services Hudson, services especially the rural lots outside of the where the municipality has the sewer and water system. So it is a central location. In addition, the soil composition being sandy, the type of sand lends itself to having the water evaporate and percolate down through the sand. There is no drainage. It's a very flat site, so there's no there's no creeks or streams. There is no drainage channels on the site, and as such, by it being flat, once the drying cells are constructed, the waste itself is contained in those drying beds. So in terms of an environmental footprint, it's good that way because nothing migrates off the site, and it's within the footprint of where Derek is operating. One of the catalysts for the site is the presence of the Ballard camp and the associated infrastructure out on the landscape, such as the porta potties and stuff like that. So there's been a real need for a site that can handle this extra waste within and around the township in a safe and environmentally sound manner. And Derek has been talking with Ballard about being the individual who could service that waste removal system that's going to be around for the next few years.
Is there any other is there another site in the area that would be equally advantageous? Do you know?
I'm not aware of any of the sites in the area that are readily accessible already, and that provide the kind of footprint that this one does. Whether or not there is a site, I'm sure there is somewhere in the municipality. Just the sheer size of the municipality would say yes, there is some kind of site that would be available. We're just not aware of any right now. And Derek does have other sites in the municipality, and over time those are going to become depleted. And so trying to get ahead of that part of the business and then looking all over the municipality, this would seem to be the best site for his business and the best site as an environmental footprint.
Thank you. Councillor Howie.
So I have some thoughts. And so it was brought forward in the discussions that the road itself is maintained by NNEC. It's essentially something that the town has relinquished responsibility of to maintain. And they, of course.
Sorry, Councillor Howie, I don't believe the municipality ever had the responsibility to maintain it.
Sorry.
It was part of the amalgamation that was incorporated into the municipality, and it was never assumed that was a.
Okay, I withdraw my comment then that we have relinquished responsibility. And I will say I commend NNEC then for maintaining this road in the condition that it has been maintained year round. So I do, I want to ask a question then, if a representative of NNEC is available. Is there any kind of agreement in?
I'm just not sure right now. We're Mr. Clerk, could you just clarify for me? Can we do that, or?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I would recommend that if there are questions for any of the comments that were received on the application, that that follow the first round of comments by council on the actual application, and then if there are specific questions regarding those who've provided feedback, if they are available to answer them, that may be in order at that time.
Okay, so we'll keep going right now through the applicant, Councillor Howie. Thanks.
Absolutely. So I will address my question to the applicant in that case. And I'm assuming Mr. David will speak to this, but has there been any thought or discussion around some kind of agreement to assist in road maintenance? I mean, winter plowing is what's upon us right now. My other question, and I will support recommendation 2 in the document to have further consultation and planning with respect to this. But my other recommendation is, how will the site be secured in itself? Given that the students use the land and treat the land as a classroom, is there going to be fencing around, or how will the site be kind of preserved in its natural aesthetic?
Thanks, Connor. The security or the notification around that would be signage. There wasn't an intention to be fencing or any kind of that kind of infrastructure around it. There was or is intended that there be a buffer of trees from the roadways so that the driveway into the site, there'd be screening so that it's just not a wide open site. That would be where we are right now.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bath.
Yeah, I have a few comments. I certainly don't disagree with the technical aspects of the site. I've seen it, I've been on it. It's a very nice flat treed site. It's actually quite a pretty little spot, actually. The gravel pits that are in the background are used by dirt bikers and people like that. The concerns I have are certainly the concerns of Pelican Falls school folks are very valid, I think. I don't honestly think the road's going to get beat up too much with a single truck driving back and forth every now and again. But that site is also right on the way to the path to Sioux Mountain. Anybody who's going to Sioux Mountain goes right beside it. Anybody, all the Anderson's Camps folks who are going to their landing at on Lac Sioux go right beside it. It's a very touristy type of area. So in my mind, it's not an appropriate area for a drying bed. Drying beds sound nice, but they're not really drying beds. They're dumped full of raw sewage. And it eventually dries and then it becomes a drying bed. There's no doubt about that. But I don't, to me, that's not really a nice spot to have a great big drying spot for sewage. So I'm not really in favor of this.
Thank you. Councillor Fenlon.
Yes. I'm neutral on this. I don't know what to think of it. I think we should try and postpone it, I guess, and come back with after we've talked to all the parties involved, I guess. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
Yeah, Bob, what's the life expectancy of the site?
I'll have to turn that one over to Derek. I'm sure it involves the use, how much it's used. So, Derek?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's exactly it. It depends on the use and what comes with it. The idea of having as many drying beds available is so that it's like a yearly use for the one bed, and then it has a chance to dry up and rotate them, right, as we go. So again, it depends how much use we get out of them, and I don't have a number for that for you.
Okay, so basically you're applying for a land use permit, which is good for X amount of years, and then I guess you would have to reapply every 5 years or 10 years. I'm not too sure. I don't know if Mr. David has an answer for that.
Yeah, M&R would decide on the length of time, could be anywhere from 5 to 10 years. And if the site was still needed after the renewal date, then generally it would be a simple matter of you don't have to go through the whole new process. You just, they'd take another review. And if it met the current review requirements of M&RF, then they'd probably look favorably on rolling it over.
Okay. I'm just wondering, do we know if Pelican School is on septic? Do they have septic fields out there? I would think so. Or how do they dispose of their waste?
I think you could ask that question perhaps if there's a
Next round.
the next round.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, I think I understand the comments coming from Pelican, and based on those comments and the explanations provided by Mr. David, I think to me it sounds like there's an actual understanding of what the activity is going to be. Looking at the imagery, it's the septic beds are going to be about 2.5 kilometers in off the highway, and the school's another 3 kilometers in on by road from there. So it's less than 50% of the road is going to be used by K Contracting. And as Mr. David alluded to, this did kind of come up late, and he was aware of it late. So it sounds like the parties might not there might just be a bit of an understanding issue there. So I would be okay with maybe perhaps allowing K Contracting and Mr. David to have maybe a dialogue with Pelican Falls around what's going to be there, and maybe there can be some kind of an agreement or an understanding that could be compromised on.
Thank you. So before I go to members of the public, and during that round, we'll have also a chance for council to re-engage, because some of you wanted to engage, perhaps if the public wanted to engage. Just wanted to address a couple of things. I thought the letter from NNEC was very respectful, but I do, so many times things come to the statutory public meeting, the planning table, and people who appear at the planning table say, well, how can you even consider that? Council must consider all applications that come, and we're legally obligated. We will consider them. By bringing them to the council table to consider, there's a very regulated process which allows everybody to have their input, which is what's happening here tonight. But the very nature, there was opposition. This lengthens this process, and I'll ask the clerk to, perhaps the clerk, you might just explain. Now, we have had a letter of opposition, so we would be going to option 2, I think.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, that's correct. Typically, when there's significant opposition to an application, council normally does select option 2, which is to refer the matter back to the planning department for additional review and consideration with the parties involved.
And that's almost mandatory, that if there is opposition, we're very foolish not to delay it or to go that process. Is that correct? Thank you. So having said that, I thought that the letter from Pelican Falls School being used to the consultant, the representative, was maybe informative for them. The road, I thought that the Pelican Falls School bringing up NNEC, bringing up the road situation is informative for council, and the possible, when we're allowing these uses, then how does that implicate us in future, possibly having to take over a road which we've resisted taking over from the province all along? And I agreed with Councillor Bath's comments. recognizing where this site is. I've walked by it many times myself on the way to Sioux Mountain, and many visitors as well. It's a path of considerable use. So I'm going to go to members of the public now for questions or comments. Are there any members of the public who wish to make comments or have questions? Darren Head, I see you light up. Go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Please identify yourself, and if you're with an agency you're representing, do that first.
Good evening, Your Worship. Thank you. My name is Darren Head. I'm principal of Pelican Falls First Nations High School. As echoed in that letter from NNEC, I do have significant concerns of any type of operation, including this, our enterprise starting off on that road. We have students that are constantly back and forth during the day for medical appointments, dental appointments, mental health appointments, visiting with family, recreation activities. So that road is heavily traveled all the time. Our students live there. So there's ambulances going out there. There are students being sent to the hospital to emergency. There's traffic all the time. That is a heavily used road. And while the extra traffic may in fact be limited, it's heavy traffic, right? So there's the risk of coming in contact with our students or vehicles that are carrying our students or our staff. We have, between staff and visitors on that site, we'll have 50 people a day plus back and forth on that road. That's not even counting our students. That's our supports, our staff. It's a heavily traveled road, and this is not going to improve that situation. That is the road. If you drive over it, it's not in good shape. And the reason it's not in good shape is because NNEC, and I say NNEC, but really I'm talking Pelican Falls First Nation High School, is burdened with the maintenance of that road. There are taxpayers on that road. There's a camp on that road. Nobody pays for the maintenance of that road except Pelican Falls First Nations High School. We don't get funding from the federal government for it. Right? They don't do infrastructure. The provinces, it's not their road. They won't even put a sign on it for us. And it's not a municipal road. We went to the Supreme Court about that. So it's nobody's road. We're at the end of it. So we pay for it. Every dime that's spent on that road is paid for by Pelican Falls First Nations High School. And you know where we get the money? We take it from tuition dollars. Money that's supposed to be spent to educate our students is spent on that road. Can you imagine any other school in this province where they would take away tuition dollars to pay for a road to get to the school? It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't be acceptable. And now we're going to talk about, hey, let's put somebody else on that road. And why? And Ms. Timpson, why does Mr. K want this road? Why did he want the bed there? He's got an already built road, right? He doesn't have to build a road to his enterprise, and it's freely maintained. He doesn't even have to plow it. Who wouldn't want that deal? I'm going to start up a business. Someone's going to have the road's already built and not even have to maintain it. That's a gold mine. That's why that piece of property is so attractive. But it's on the back of Pelican Falls First Nations High School. I understand about what Mr. David's saying about the impact and roads and the traffic. No, this is not right. It is not the right place to put it. And as long as NNEC and Pelican Falls is saddled with the cost of that road, nothing else should be built on that road, because nobody owns that road. And it's wrong. And this is not the right place for it. And if there's more traffic, and once this thing goes in, what else is going to go in after? Right? If you say yes to this, how can you say how can you say no to something else? It's not the place to put it. And if nobody's going to even maintain this road except NNEC, NNEC should have a significant say on what's on that road. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? I hear or see nobody, so I will ask you, Council, and Mr. Head, you were the only member of the public who spoke, so are you willing to respond to any council questions or consider responding to a councillor question?
Sure, I can. Brendan Sitar, our operations manager, is also on, I believe, and our executive director, Norma Tejic. So between us, I'm sure we could answer any questions.
And you're not forced to answer any questions
Yeah.
at all. Some of the councillors may help to inform the situation. So I'll just quickly go around the table. Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, just one thought about an alternative place is, what about the old town dump? Maybe that's not suitable. I don't know, but that's just something that is a possibility. But wondering, well, I would support that at the first step being that the company and Pelican Falls sit down to really work through this and see if there is any common ground that they can reach, that possibly an agreement to maintain the road or whatever, and possibly a slightly different location if it impedes on the students' abilities to work in the wilderness. So I would support that there be some real good sit down consultation before we really move on this, and think about other things. Think about other options if we have to.
And Mr. Head, you don't have to respond or enter into a consultation now. That would come later. Councillor Howie.
Yeah, thank you, Darren, for expressing your concerns in this project. And I'll ask a question and you can choose to answer or not. But it doesn't seem like there's been an appetite by other residents of Pelican Falls Road to, in essence, cost share on that maintenance. And not without going into specifics, but have there been previous discussions regarding cost sharing or upkeep of the road for the other residents aside from the high school?
So, Mr. Head, you can answer or not, your choice.
I can to an extent, but I know Norma Kijik could probably provide even more background information than Brendan Sitar as well. But yeah, there's been consultations for years about maintaining that road. NNEC has no choice. We have students and staff going back and forth that road. We have to maintain it. It's not an option for us. Anybody else on the road just simply says, no, we're not. They won't even entertain the idea. That includes the camps, that includes the taxpayers there. Nobody else will, and we have no choice. We can't just say, well, we're not doing it either. It's impossible. We're in a situation where we're at the end of the road, and our student safety and our staff safety take precedence, and so we have to. And I know Norma or Brendan might want to make further comment.
Brendan, any comment? No.
Yeah, I agree with Darren. He's pretty well hit the nail on the head with the hammer there. But yeah, I've had conversations with other landowners down the road. And at the end of the day, they know it's going to get plowed and maintained as best as we can do it. So why, have any money come out of their own pockets? Because we have to do it.
Thank you. And if Norma, if your mic goes off mute, I'll assume you want to speak. Otherwise, I'll assume. No, there you go. Please go ahead.
Yes, we haven't had direct, consultation with the residents to ask them to pay for the road. But at our staff meetings, management meetings, we have discussed putting up a toll bridge or something to recoup some of the costs that we have to pay for the resort owners that are along the end of the road there. When the road washed out one summer, I was constantly getting calls from the camp owners wondering when I was going to fix the road. And I said, not till August when the students come back. And we didn't need the road. Eventually I had to, because the road washed out so bad my staff couldn't even get to work. So we ended up having to fix the road. But it is an issue. Certainly is, like what Darren said, it does come out of tuition dollars because nobody funds us for the upkeep of that road.
Thank you. Councillor Bath.
Yeah, I really don't have anything to add. I certainly have nothing to add about the road. That's not something my feelings are still, it's not an appropriate spot. I know technically it is, but I don't believe it's the proper spot. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Fallon.
I'm at the same place where I was when I started. Should be consultations with, even if you got to get the road people in line, it's worth a try.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
Yeah, NNEC and Pelican School raised some very serious concerns. They're paying for the whole cost of that maintenance of that road, and everyone else is using it. I think the parties, if they want to, they should get together and have some constructive dialogue and see if there's a solution. But that's going to be up to them to do. Right now, it looks like we're going to auction 2, so it'll be moved along until we hear something else about it. So.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, I don't have much further to add. I think the road really obviously complicates things a lot more than what it is, and just with no one wanting to own it and no one wanting to look after it. So I would say that the parties involved, I'd hope they would maybe have some dialogue and come to some kind of an understanding and work out an agreement. And maybe this is something about the road, whether or not it be a report to council, but maybe some of the background documents and history could be provided to all the council, so everyone is aware of the kind of the history of the road and the involvement of the town with that. So.
Thank you. So, Mr. Clerk and Development Services Manager, just before we conclude, I would just like to, the recommendation then will be option 2. And could, Mr. Clerk, I'll let you decide who best to run us through the process from this point forward.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence. So yes, once we read the conclusion and closing of public meeting, based on the deliberations by council, it sounds like option 2 will be used, which essentially directs staff to prepare a subsequent planning report for presentation to council at a subsequent meeting. So it'll be up to the individuals in the planning department to take what was said at this evening's meeting and determine how best to proceed.
All right, before we conclude, Development Services Manager, any comments?
Through Mayor Lawrence, yeah, we will take the concerns that have been raised and discuss with both parties and try to come to either some sort of conclusion or, you know, it'll definitely be part of the report that we prepare for the next meeting.
All right, anything further from planning, Jamie Robinson, our planning consultant?
Only insofar as to elaborate on what Jody or Mr. Brinkman indicated, was that we heard concerns related to potential character matters, safety matters, road maintenance issues, and which come down generally to access. So we'll take into consideration those comments, try to facilitate some dialogue between the various parties and interests, and we'll take that all into consideration in preparing a recommendation report for council's consideration at a subsequent meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. I think one of the things that was raised by at least 1 or 2 members of council was alternate locations. Are there, we're not asking you to come back with an alternate locations, but just we would like to, I think in that report, have identified the possibility of alternate locations. I think it's relevant to the council's decision.
We will take that into consideration, Your Worship.
Thank you. So for the for both the applicant and the public who came out, no decision is being made. A decision could have been to accept it and approve it. That decision was not made. The decision is to defer it and go to further reports. That doesn't imply acceptance or denial in the future. It means council has heard enough that they want there's more information is required. So we will now conclude the public meeting.
Can I just say one thing?
I'm sorry, who's talking?
Derek
The
K.
applicant. Yep, please. Yep.
This is like a service that this community needs. Basically, everybody from south of the Forest Inn, to my understanding, needs this. And I understand there's some issues on the Pelican Road that they feel they're not getting their fair share of money. But in the same token, Mr. Head talked about concerns of people going in and out on the road. We've been in and out on the road a fair amount of time to service their facility, all hours of the night, weekends, during the week, and there's never been an issue. So I think that might be a bit of a stretch.
Thank you. I think that the discussion is about the location and not necessarily some of the other matters there. But
I understand that, but it is a needed thing in this community, and it is an excellent location.
I think council and everybody appreciates the need for it, and it's excellent in terms of the site characteristics, perhaps, but the actual location and conflicts is what comes into play here, as well as the road. So we'll conclude the public meeting regarding the official plan amendment application number OP01-2021. If any member of the public wishes to be notified of the decision of council in respect of the application, you must make a written request to the manager of development services. Notice to appeal the decision of council to the Ontario Municipal Board must be filed with the manager of development services no later than 20 days from the date of the notice of the decision is circulated. The notice of appeal shall be sent to the attention of the manager of development services, and it must include the following information: the reasons for the appeal and the fee as prescribed under the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal Act in the amount of $1,100 payable by certified check to the Minister of Finance, Province of Ontario. Only individuals, corporations, or public bodies may appeal the decision of council to the Planning Tribunal. An appeal may not be filed by an unincorporated association or group. A notice of appeal may be filed in the name of an individual who is a member of the association or group. And the motion will be, if I'm correct, Mr. Clerk, that council receives the planning report 2021-24 dated February 17, and the word was receives, respecting official plan amendment application number OP01-2021 and zoning bylaw amendment application number Z02-2021, and that council directs staff to prepare a subsequent planning report for presentation to council at a subsequent council meeting that considers the feedback received at the February 17th, 2021 statutory public meeting. And moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. Further discussion, council? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So I believe 5.2 is now irrelevant at this time. Am I correct?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, given that 5.2 follows from 5.1, the zoning bylaw would follow the official plan amendment. I would want to double check with Mr. Robinson, but I believe that there shouldn't be need to hold a separate now statutory public meeting on zoning bylaw amendment application Z02 2021, as this matter is sort of there. They go hand in hand, and council has already said that they want to wanted to go back for a subsequent report. But Mr. Robinson, could you confirm that we can essentially skip that public meeting?
Your worship, to the clerk, that's correct. The public meeting, one public meeting can be held for both the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application, and that goes for the subsequent, the next meeting on the agenda as well. So you can move ahead with that item, being that it's already been considered. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we're on to then 5.3.
Yes.
Official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment number OP 02-2021, Mill Road Dental Office, 113 Mill Road, applicant Dr. Tracy Guitard. I hope I have the pronunciation right there, so I can be corrected after. Introduction and overview. This public meeting is being held pursuant to section 1715 and section 22 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended, to inform the public and to obtain their input with respect to a proposed amendment to the municipality of Sioux official plan. The purpose and effect of the official plan amendment application number OP02-2021 is to establish a site-specific shoreline residential official plan designation. The Manager of Development Services will confirm how notice was served to advertise the public meeting.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, notice was served by mail to property owners within 120 meters of the subject site through the local newspaper, and posted signs were posted on site.
Thank you. The Manager of Development Services will provide a summary of the application.
Your Worship, if I may just, butt in for one moment.
Thank you.
Could we just add as well that this is also a public meeting under section 34 of the Planning Act to consider a zoning bylaw amendment to zone the property from a residential shoreline zone to residential shoreline exception zone. That just covers us off. That's the term. That would be the language in your next item on the agenda, and it'll mean we can do it all in one shot here as opposed to two. Thanks.
So do I need to amend anything that we've said here?
No, we're fine. Thanks.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, an official plan amendment application and zoning bylaw amendment application has been submitted by Dr. Tracy Guitard for the subject property located at 113 Mill Road. The subject property is located on Abram Lake. The owner is proposing a dental office on the lower level of an existing single detached dwelling on the subject property. The proposed dental office is to occupy a maximum of 223 square meters, 2,400 square feet of the existing single detached dwelling. In order to permit the proposed dental office at the scale proposed, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications are required to permit the use on the subject property. The municipality's planning documents permits home occupations within residential areas, but the scale of the proposed use within a residential area exceeds what is permitted as a home occupation. The subject property is located within the residential shoreline designation of the official plan and within the residential shoreline zone in the zoning bylaw. The subject property is located within the Drayton area. The subject property is 12 acres, has considerable frontage on Abram Lake, and contains 2 existing single detached dwellings. The single detached dwelling where the dental office is proposed is 511 square meters, 5,500 square feet in size, over 2 floors. The owner currently operates a dental office at the property located at 89 Mill Road, which is located approximately 50 meters to the north of the subject property. Approvals were obtained for this use from the municipality in 2004. The owner is seeking a new location for the dental offices and is proposing to expand the existing operation, including exceeding the number of employees and maximum floor area of a home business that would be permitted under the provisions of a home occupation in the zoning bylaw. Following a review of the application and the information that the applicant provided, it is our understanding that the proposed dental office will include the following: operated on the lower level of the existing single detached dwelling, occupy a maximum of 233 square meters of floor area. This accounts for 44% of the single detached dwelling, contain a total of 4 patient rooms, 3 currently proposed with 1 additional plan in the future, have a total of 5 employees. The official plan and zoning bylaw include policies and regulations regarding home occupations. Under the zoning bylaw, if certain criteria and standards are met on a residential property, the home occupation may be permitted as of right. During pre-consultation with the owner, staff indicated that the proposed scale and intensity of the proposed dental office exceeded that of a home occupation. When home-based businesses exceed the established regulations for a home occupation, the use is no longer captured under the parameters of home occupation and must be considered as a separate other use on a lot. It is understood that one of the reasons for the proposal is that there's a lack of available properties for this use in the Sioux Lookout urban area. This has limited the applicant's ability to locate on commercially designated lands in the Sioux Lookout urban area. Because a commercial use, including a dental office, is not permitted within the residential shoreline designation, an official plan amendment is required to permit the use on the subject property. Policies regarding the permitted uses for residential shoreline designation are included in section 4.11.2. There are no policies in the residential shoreline designation that assist with evaluating the appropriateness of a commercial use such as a dentist office in the residential shoreline designation, as these uses are not contemplated by the official plan. Section 4.11.2 does contain development policies that apply to permitted uses, and these policies recognize the importance of balancing building form with the natural character of the shoreline and the important role of setbacks and natural vegetation areas in minimizing the impact of shoreline uses on the environment and adjacent properties. Section 3.3 of the official plan includes policies regarding land use compatibility in the Drayton area. As much as possible, land use conflicts should be avoided. Section 3.3.1 includes policies to evaluate the compatibility of development applications, including policies regarding traffic and parking requirements. The size of the subject property does not present any concerns for accommodating parking. The proposed use would result in increases in traffic volumes from deliveries, clients, and employees that are greater than what would normally be expected from a shoreline residential lot. However, the existing transportation infrastructure in the area has been utilized for the current dental clinic located at 89 Mill Road and would appear to be capable of accommodating the proposed new location for the dental clinic. Parking can be provided on site with no impact of views off-site. If the application is approved, the municipality may want to consider applying site plan control to ensure that drainage from parking areas does not impact the lake. The site is serviced by an individual on-site sewage system. If approved, the ability of the site to accommodate a fluid from the proposed use must be confirmed. It is noted that the dwelling is existing and no changes to the massing of the dwelling are contemplated from visual or aesthetic perspectives. The dwelling would continue to look like a residential dwelling when reviewed from the lake. From an impact perspective, the proposed use would not appear to negatively impact the enjoyment of the other residential properties in the shoreline residential designation. The use is located on a 12-acre site that is well separated and buffered from other dwellings and their amenity areas. The use is quiet, the use is indoors, the use does not change the exterior of the dwelling, and the owner of the dentist's office will reside in the dwelling, which will enable monitoring of the use. In evaluating the land use concept and land use compatibility considerations, the proposed OPA and ZBA amendment would permit a use that is not contemplated in the Drayton and in the Drayton area and the shoreline residential designation at this scale. There do not appear to be unique or distinguishing lot characteristics that would make it appropriate to permit a dentist office at this location when the official plan provides the opportunity for these uses to be located in designated commercial areas within the urban Sioux Lookout settlement area. The subject property is located within the residential shoreline zone in the zoning bylaw. The permitted uses of the RS zone are included in section 5.6.1 of the zoning bylaw. Single detached dwellings and a home occupation are included as a permitted use. Other permitted uses include bed and breakfast, guest cabin, home industry, and a secondary dwelling unit. As one dwelling unit is permitted on the lot and two dwelling units exist, the amendment should legalize the existing non-compliant situation. A dental office is considered a clinic, and under the definitions of the zoning bylaw, a clinic is not a permitted use within the RS zone, and therefore a zoning amendment is required to permit the proposed use. The parking requirements of the zoning bylaw have been reviewed, and the proposed use will comply with the parking requirements of the bylaw. There are no changes proposed to the exterior of the building. As a result, the existing bylaw standards are met. The dwelling and proposed parking areas are well set back from the shoreline and abutting lots. And should council approve the application, there does not appear to be any need to apply additional zone standards to the lot. The proposed use would appear to be able to be supported by the existing road network, and the dwelling on site is well set back from the lake and neighboring residential lots. However, the addition of a dental office to a residential shoreline lot would be a departure from the land use concepts in the municipality's planning documents. Specifically, the dental office would introduce a commercial use in a shoreline area that is intended for residential uses. The dental office at the scale proposed is intended for commercial areas in the municipality and not a residential shoreline area. Despite the lack of commercial opportunities on designated lands in the Sioux urban area, it is concluded that the land use concept considerations of the official plan, which are to direct development of this type to commercial designations, particularly those within the Sioux urban area, are important land use planning considerations in evaluating these applications. Thank you.
Thank you. The Manager of Development Services will read out any correspondence received from government agencies and municipal staff.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we received no comments from municipal staff. We did receive comments from the Northwest Health Unit. The Northwest Health Unit confirms receipt of application for zoning bylaw amendment Z03-2021, of which we have been asked our comments regarding the sewage system capability. Systems are subject to environmental factors such as soil conditions, prevalence of shallow or exposed bedrock, groundwater table, and drainage. Correct or improper usage of a system will also affect its operable longevity. During the winter months, a complete on-site inspection cannot be conducted due to freezing and ground coverage. Therefore, we reserve the right to comment when conditions become more conducive to inspection. That's it.
Thank you. The Manager of Development Services will read out any correspondence received from members of the public.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, this is from Barb Molstad, who lives in the area. I'm writing this letter regarding the Mill Road site-specific amendment, which will be going to council. The size of this building area to be used for commercial dental office is quite large. Will the septic system be adequate to take on such a large commercial space? Will the well accommodate this use? It is my understanding that the main floor will be used for residence. Will the owners be living there, or will the property be tenanted? This is a question about the use of the property now and in the future. Mill Road is very residential in nature, with mainly rural residential development and lakeshore residential development. A large 2,160 square foot commercial dental suite would certainly change the lakeshore residential climate. A large lot also lends to other uses, which could entail other development in the future. I believe a commercial business of this size and scope should not be located in the RS area. It would be better located in the downtown commercial area. Further, Mill Road is a side road in the community with limited traffic. Mill Road is narrow, and at times 2 vehicles have a hard time passing. There is also no turnaround at the end of Mill Road. Through you, Mayor Lawrence, this is from Brad and Heather Message, neighboring property owners. This is a letter of support for Dr. Tracy Guittard's application to establish a dental office at 113 Mill Road. We are Dr. Guittard's neighbor at 93 Mill Road and the current owner of 89 Mill Road, which is the location of the current Old Mill dental practice. We are aware Dr. Guittard would like to renovate her property at 113 Mill Road and establish a dental practice from our home. We support this application as we would like to use the current building at 89 Mill Road once she is able to renovate and move/open the dental practice. As per the public notice, we are requesting to be notified of the decision the Miss Valley makes with this application. Thank you. And this is from Kayla Olson, I believe a registered dental hygienist. A support letter for Old Mill Dental Clinic. Sioux Lookout is called the hub of the North for a few reasons, but possibly the most important that we are the heart of healthcare when it comes to surrounding areas, including northern reserves. Meadow Yowan Health Center caters to a massive patient base. Unfortunately, oftentimes oral health is overlooked. This is a huge issue. Not only does oral health affect your ability to eat and speak, but it affects your entire body. Cardiovascular health, diabetes status, and immune function, to name a few. How can we call ourselves a healthcare hub if we currently cannot serve the oral health of the entire population Meadow Yowan serves? As it stands now, the Old Mill Dental Clinic and Dr. Hackler's office cannot keep up with demand. And with the recent closure of the Zone Dental program run through Health Canada, it is becoming increasingly clear that we need to expand. The proposed new location for the dental clinic is ideal for expansion without losing the sense of small town office that cares deeply for its patients that we currently have. The new dental office is the long-term solution for our town's serious problem when it comes to dental services. With a larger office, there is potential to bring specialists to us instead of sending patients out of town, brackets sometimes out of province, for their dental needs. A larger office also allows us to see a higher volume of patients sooner rather than have a 3-month wait list for appointment availability. And a larger office allows for expansion of our business, which means more job opportunities right here in town. Allowing the renovation of this dental office opens healthcare doors for our hub of the north and keeps businesses in Sioux Lookout. And that's the end of the comments.
Thank you. The applicant or a representative is invited to speak to the application. I see Dr. Guitard, you are here. Do you wish to speak, or do you have another representative?
Oh, I wish I had another representative, but yeah, it's just me. I'm wearing a mask because I'm sitting here with my dental team, so we're still in the office. So just in case you're wondering, and also our internet has been popping up that it's saying it's unstable, so I might have to just cut out and be a voice. Just so
You're doing fine so far.
okay, okay. So everybody knows that Sioux Lookout is drastically short in providing dental care. It's definitely an underserviced community, and all that we're kind of asking for is just to move down the street like 50 meters. We're not actually expanding the square footage that much because the current office to have the 2 operatories and a waiting room and should be probably around 1,600 square feet or maybe even more. But it's just a very, very tiny office, as everybody who knows. So with what Barb was saying, we're not actually like doubling or tripling like the amount of patients and traffic and stuff that's going to be seen. We're going to add 2 more ops to what should have been about 1,600 or 1,800 square feet here. And that's only 2 10 by 12 rooms. So we're not expanding, you know, huge. So it's and I wanted to introduce Stefan DiBernardi. He's on here. He's the Henry Sheen dental tech and rep, and he will be spearheading the design and building of the new dental practice if this is approved. And he'll make sure that everything meets like all the standards, Ministry of Health, accessibility, infection prevention and control, all the regulations. So he's on here somewhere. And we might, if people ask me very technical questions, we might just refer to him. Should I answer, like with Barb, should I answer some of her concerns, or does that come later?
But I think you're free to speak to them if you wish. And we recognize septic fields and wells aren't under the jurisdiction or the purview of the municipality. That comes under the Northwest Health Unit. So it's those things would be done to standard, and it would come at the stage of occupancy permit, which our development services manager, chief building official would issue. So those aren't really municipal concerns, other than once to get occupancy, we need to see those that correspondence certification from the health unit. Okay. So you don't really need to address that here. But if you care to address, I think there was and as far as the road is concerned, I would as our public works manager is not on the line. No, he is on the line. He might be able to speak to that. So but you go ahead and do whatever you like to say. This is your chance.
Okay. Well, as far as the road use, it actually wouldn't be anything more. Like we are not going to be able to, I'm only one dentist, and we're not going to be able to service, you know, thousands of more people. And it would be the same pretty much amount of traffic, deliveries and everything. They would just be going that extra 50 meters down and wouldn't really affect the road where Derek and Barb live on. I did talk to all my neighbors. I did not talk to Barb. I'm pretty sure she's probably more than 120 meters away, but everybody else that I spoke with in the surrounding community was very favorable with the move. And then yeah, as far as the septic, the house is a huge house and was built for a huge family. So it would just be 2 people living upstairs in the dental clinic, and we would probably consume and produce way less than the house is actually built for. There's waterless suctions that can be implemented and all kinds of things to reduce on the amount of water that's used. Anything else, Bruce? Okay. Quick. Oh, okay. Stefan, can you add something into anything I said there?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm a representative of Henry Schein Canada. We're the largest dental and medical solutions company in the world, Fortune 500 company. Somebody mentioned water. Yeah, modern dental offices, they all run now on waterless suction. Older dental office the suction would require 2 gallons of water per minute. Typically, you would have 2 pumps running, each pump consuming 1 gallon of water. So that's 2 gallons of water per minute. With modern dental offices, that's a thing of the past. You don't have that anymore. And since 2001, too, all dental offices now are all equipped. It's mandated that they have a solids collector to trap any leakage from any amalgam fillings and all that. So none of that goes into the septic. It's all caught and then into a filter that gets disposed of accordingly. So there's no concerns there. Like Tracy mentioned too about traffic, it's 50 meters down the road. It's the location that they're at right now is so small. It's not ergonomically correct. It's not up to code it or IPAC or municipal of health. This facility will meet all the standards for health and safety, following the guidelines of the Royal College of Dental Surgeons of Ontario. Yeah, this will all be to code.
Thank you. Anything further, Dr. Guitart?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
So questions from members of council. Councillor Timpson.
I guess I'm wanting to comment more than ask a question. That if we go back 20 years when Old Mill was established by the late Lynn Capel, a dental hygienist who had a vision of a facility on her own land that would be family oriented, and the Old Mill Dental Clinic now is built such that you're lying in the dental care and you're listening to the birds outside and you're looking at trees. And it really is a very pleasant experience there. And now when we did our official plan, say we did not contemplate a dental clinic, exactly. Who would expect a dental clinic on the lakeshore? And yet when I think about it, I think that's really a very, very nice idea. But let's look at, rather than the aesthetic, let's look at the need. Back in 2000, when Lynn Capel established her clinic, we had 5 dental services here. We had Dr. Mao, we had Dr. Hakala and Dr. Clements and the Zone Hospital and Old Mill. So we had 5. The Zone Hospital is apparently not providing the services. Dr. Mao has left town, and I can't speak for the Dr. Hakala and Dr. Clement, but that would bring us down to 3 in a much larger population that we have than in 2000. And not to mention that the non-insured patients from the north are now accessing Old Mill. So, and at some point, Drs. Hakla and Clements are going to want to downscale their operations. And if we don't approve this official plan amendment and zoning bylaw, we could be left with no dentist at all in Sioux Lookout. And we would all be driving down to Dryden and waiting maybe 6 months for our appointment. I think that this is a perfect example of us as Hub of the North attracting people to live here and to stay in here and to shop here, because every time you go to Dryden, you spend a couple $100. I think we need to be very, support this application based on the very unique situation we are in here in Sioux Lookout. I noticed that the resolution is framed in the negative, that we not accept it. But I think we would be very, very short-sighted if we did not accommodate to this request. Perhaps there could be some adjustments for the septic field, etc. But the existing Old Mill has a septic field, and it's, as far as I know, has functioned.
Yeah, I would just remind council, and the septic fields and wells don't fall under our purview. That falls under the Northwest Health Unit, and they will certainly make sure they meet standards.
Right. Okay. So, but that, that's in 2004, 2005. I don't remember what it was when this property was split in two after Miss Campbell died. Her property was split, and that's when it went to council at that time to allow the clinic to remain. And I've never heard of any issues there with the existing clinic. I'm very interested to hear Stefan's assessment, and that we're using less water now than we did before. So I think these are issues we really have to take into account. But let's look at what we need in Sioux Lookout, and we do need a dentist here. I mean, even with the 4 dentists we have now, you're waiting 3 months for an appointment. Imagine if we're reduced to 2 or maybe none. So I fully support this.
Thank you, Councillor Timpson. Councillor Howie.
Yeah, to echo what Councillor Timpson has said, I support this application, and I think Sioux Lookout does need to enhance the services it offers. We continue to tout ourselves as the Hub of North, as a healthcare hub of the North, and I definitely do see the need when it comes to dental services in servicing our northern population, as well as our local residential population. So thank you for your presentation today. And thank you for submitting this application. I think it is a step in the right direction overall for our community when it comes to jobs, when it comes to increased services, even if the renovation of the facility will bring a benefit to the community. My question would in some way then be the timeline to operation once it is approved. Is there an approximate timeline on that, Doctor?
Well, I guess it would depend on planning and permits and all that stuff, getting a contractor, getting quotes. I would be optimistically, realistically thinking like mid-fall, probably about 3 months for Stefan would know better, for the design team to come up with everything, the blueprints, the construction, probably looking into, my goal would be like, yeah, end of September would be my goal. If we can get all our ducks in a row and make sure, because we want to do it and we want to do it right, and we want to have it to be right and to last, and we don't want to make a misstep and then have to recalculate. So
thank you,
Stefan.
Absolutely.
Anything further, Councillor Howie?
Yeah, I also just wanted to again echo what Councillor Timpson said about the natural environment of the proposed site. I know in previous working with members of the remote north that have traveled for their dental services, even this current site of the Old Mill Dental Clinic is amazing. Many are, once they have their appointment, they're waiting on others that they're traveling with, an escort, whoever. It is a perfect facility to be kind of, especially for those that are traveling from the north, and in some ways we have to remember the culture shock or the westernization. It's still a component of the natural environment and landscape. So we got to keep that at heart. And again, thank you. And I hope this is approved.
Thank you, Councillor Bath.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm certainly, I approve it all the way. I have right from the start. I don't want to get into all the dental discussion and who's going to be using it and whatnot. The technical parts are fine for me. I'm concerned with our own presentation of this, that we show that we should reject it. And accordingly, we don't have bylaws and zoning bylaws ready to go. The other one, the previous one we looked at, the zoning bylaws and the official plans were ready to go. So that's going to slow down this application. And that bothers me that that's happening. I think if we're going to put things on the table from the planning department, they need to be ready to go, because they don't know what council's going to do. And in my mind, they should have known council would say, this is the goal, let's do it. So I just to put that on the table, I'm in favor.
Thank you, Councillor Fenlon.
Yes, I agree with it. I think it's a good fit down in the neighborhood there. And as far as I know, there hasn't been that many accidents on that road, that specific road. It's a 50-kilometer-an-hour road, and it's probably wider than most of the streets in Hudson. So yeah, I'm gonna go for it. I think it's a good fit, and it brings the industry and our businesses rather into our town. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Lego.
I 100% support this. Like the doctor said, they're moving 50 meters down the road. The business already exists, so I have no issue with this at all. And thank you for your service to our community. It's appreciated.
Councillor Cassidy.
Yes, I also support this, and I echo Councillor Timpson's statements about the consideration of who would put a dentist office on a lakeshore. It's probably not something people would consider when they draft official plans or zoning bylaws. It's just not something in the wheelhouse. But like Councillor Lego said, and it's been presented, you're moving 50 meters down. I don't think a situation like this would probably has ever really come up in planning and stuff. So I'm in favor of this. I think it's great. I think it's a need in the community, and we need to support businesses that are here as well. And that's what this is doing. So I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. Just before I go to the questions from members of the public, if there are any present, I am just going to ask a question of the Public Works Manager who's on the line. In the one letter that we had letters in support and one letter, I think, in raising questions. Questions about sewer and water, which don't fall under our purview, but will be addressed through the Public Health Unit. But the road is under municipal control, and could Public Works Manager comment on the road?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the road was given to the municipality as responsibility when through the annexation process in 1999. We have recently, Public Works and the municipality have undertaken some capital works on the road. It's been recently resurfaced, the second part of it in 2020 and the first 350 meters, I believe, in 2018. So the lane width is 3 meters each side, and then there's 0.75 meter shoulder. So approximately it's a standard lane width for a 50-kilometer road. I don't see any reason when this application was circulated to municipal staff for comment. I didn't comment. However, I did ask the development service manager a couple questions, and one was that if this would replace the existing business, and to which he answered yes, and then I had no further comment, assuming that the traffic impact on the road wouldn't be any substantially more than what's there now to facilitate the business that's there. So In terms of the road, I don't see any issues with the application and the intended use.
Thank you. We'll move to members of the public are invited to speak to the application. The public can ask questions of clarification or seek background information, speak in support of the application, or speak in opposition to the application. All questions will be directed through the chair. It is requested that only one question be asked at a time. Please identify yourself before you ask your question so that you can be properly recorded in the minutes of the hearing. Are there any members of the public here who wish to speak?
Your worship, it's Jamie Robinson. Just for 1 second, if I may just provide one point of clarification is to Mr. Councillor Bass' comments.
I was going to address that. I was actually going to address that in coming up, but can I just make sure there are no members of the public here first?
Certainly. Yeah.
Are there any members of the public present who wish to speak? I see nobody indicating so. So you would like to, Mr. Robinson, please go ahead.
Yeah, so just 2 points. First, the agenda package does provide a draft official plan and a draft zoning bylaw amendment, and council is well within their rights to pass resolutions approving both those documents this evening that would be signed by his worship at a later time and the clerk. And I just wanted to provide one more piece of information from staff's perspective is that I hope you'll take note, all of council take note when they have reviewed the staff report that we tried to provide a very balanced report that does provide a number of reasons why it would be appropriate to approve the application from a technical perspective and from a compatibility perspective and a lack of impact on neighboring property owners. But when we put our planning hat on, planning hat's often different than what sort of than the personal side might be of things. So that's the reason for the recommendation, but certainly council, there is justification also for council to approve this application tonight, as I think you've seen around the table. So I just wanted to provide that note for council that we weren't certainly not trying to be negative. There's just there is an official plan that we as planners have to follow in our opinions at the end of the day. So I hope you'll respect that as well. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. And that was going to be my comment exactly. I'm sorry you had to defend yourself. Is that council? We created the official plan. We approved the official plan. We approved the zoning. So staff are doing their job, as is the consultant in doing. I thought it was a very balanced report, and I was surprised at the end when the recommendation was not to approve, but I recognized that it was done because of the official plan and zoning bylaws, which council has put in place for staff to work with. So don't be surprised that when staff do that. I agree with the comments from council, and I'm very supportive of this application and supportive of the report that was put together by staff. Thank you. So I will either development services manager or the clerk just direction on. We've concluded we've had the members from the public. I should do the conclusion and closing of the public meeting and then move to the bylaws. So this concludes the public meeting regarding the official plan amendment number OP02-2021, and take it away from there to read the rest of it. Mr. Clerk, thanks. A different voice.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, thank you. If any member of the public wishes to be notified of the decision of council in respect to the application, you must make a written request to the Manager of Development Services. Notice to appeal the decision of council to the local land appeal tribunal must be filed with the Manager of Development Services no later than 20 days from the date of the notice of a decision is circulated. The notice of appeal shall be sent to the attention of the Manager of Development Services, and it must include the following information: the reasons for the appeal and the fee as prescribed under the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal Act in the amount of $1,100 payable by certified check to the Minister of Finance, Province of Ontario. Only individuals, corporations, or public bodies may appeal the decision of council to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. Any appeal may not be filed. An appeal may not be filed by an unincorporated association or group. A notice of appeal may be filed in the name of an individual who is a member of the association or group.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And we do all these things and say all these things so that there can be no appeal on technical grounds. And I asked the question about the road to satisfy council in terms of the one letter that asked some questions. I think all those questions were addressed, so I feel confident that council is going to approve this. Mr. Clerk, how do we now proceed with the process?
Through Mayor Lawrence, oh, I do see Councillor Timpson is seeking your attention.
Yeah.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I just had one question. I noticed that the application asked for 233 square meters, and yet the report recommended 225 square meters. I guess my question would be to Dr. Guittard and to the building.
You know, Councillor Timpson, I think you're digging down into detail that's beyond the scope of this meeting, and the area may change a few meters one way or the other once they get into detailed planning. I'm just not sure that that's something that we need to discuss at this time in this form. So I think we'll just move on to conclude the process here. Mr. Clerk.
Through Mayor Lawrence, if it is council's desire to move forward with adopting both the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments as outlined, I would request recess at this time so that I can obtain a bylaw number for the official plan amendment that hadn't been sought. So I do require a recess to gather that information.
I welcome your request for a recess. I'm sorry to delay the people who are waiting to appear as a delegation in our regular meeting, but I think a recess of 10 minutes, would that be adequate? So let's reconvene at recess and come back at 7:25. And Dr. Guittard, then you'll, since you just left, oh, there you are, sorry, so just the screen's moved around a bit. We're not finished with you yet, so the process isn't quite complete. 7:25, Council, thank you.